morning, I'm Ferdi Salvador and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their fields, one industry at a time. In focus this morning, the emerging trends in healthcare and, of course, the big industry it is, specifically on functional medicine. Putting a premium on health has long been the priority of Filipinos. And since the pandemic, the importance of accessible healthcare has only been amplified. How did the industry evolve since then? Joining us now is Dr. Oyie Balburias, a certified functional medicine practitioner and medical director of Rhodium Regenerative Institute. Good morning, Dr. Oyie. Thank you so much for being here on the show this morning.
Good morning, Ferdi. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so this is a great interest to us and, of course, especially for me because, you know, regenerative or functional medicine is something that a lot of Filipinos don't have access to, right? Tell us the difference between functional and regenerative medicine.
Well, actually, regenerative medicine involves a lot of advanced technology pertaining to stem cells. But functional medicine is actually just an approach to our body from the perspective of health.
Yes.
Okay. It simply answers two questions. What's causing or what's driving why this person is having a lot of chronic conditions or chronic diseases. So once you identify that, then you need to eliminate it or remove it. No? And at the same time, with the help of regenerative medicine or regenerative treatment modalities, we also try to answer the question, what could help restore back the balance of that particular person's biological system so that we could either reverse chronic diseases or prevent it or delay it from causing a lot of complications.
So it is a possibility. What's the difference naman with conventional medicine and regenerative or functional medicine?
Well, conventional medicine is expertise towards managing the disease. No? But regenerative medicine or functional medicine is focused on the root causes why those chronic conditions or chronic diseases is happening in the first place. No? So simply addressing the root causes. No? That's the difference between functional medicine, regenerative medicine versus conventional medicine.
You know, wellness is such a what you call it, big industry, and everybody's talking about it. Wellness here, wellness that, whether it be spas or like, you know, non-conventional, like, you know, breath work and stuff like that. And it is a humongous business. In fact, you know, a lot of hospitality companies are investing billions of dollars into their wellness programs. Do you think that regenerative or functional medicine can be part of this whole wellness industry in terms of not being retail, obviously, because it's expensive, and we'll talk about that later, but in the whole, like, you know, when I take a holiday, I can go to a regenerative center and deal with my chronic diseases?
Well, basically, many of these treatment modalities have been around. No? The only difference now is that there's such a thing as scientific wellness or measured wellness. So everything from traditional healing modalities, no, it can now be measured as far as its impact on our biological system. So that's the only difference. But yes, it can definitely, it should be, I don't consider it as expensive. I consider it like an investment towards your health. No, it's simply just changing the perspective. Whether do you want to spend for chronic diseases forever?
Correct.
Or you want to invest now in your health so that you not only achieve longevity, but you also achieve longevity with vitality. In other words, health span rather than just achieving lifespan.
Right. Let's just put it in perspective. Tell us about your medical background. What did you study first? I wanna know so that, you know, we can tell our viewers, you know, how you got into this.
Well, originally I am a trained general internist. That's actually the specialization towards managing adult diseases. Okay. But I realized about 16 years ago that there's a big difference if you want to manage the health of a person versus managing the disease of a person. No? So a lot of doctors are really experts in managing chronic diseases. No? So But what I try to bring in is how do you avoid developing chronic diseases in the first place? And that's where functional and regenerative medicine come into play. So this is where you can already determine your risk predisposition, how likely it is that your genetics will develop into a chronic condition. Like, for example, cancer.
Yes.
We know for a fact that cancer right now is coming in second as one of the top chronic conditions affecting Filipinos.
And
so
it's a telling of our lifestyle. Yeah.
Correct. So a lot of people now are preferring not to really just take it as part of their genes. No? In fact, we're not doomed by our genes. No? So with epigenetics, we can actually influence how our genes are expressed.
That's important what you just said, Doc. I hope you don't mind me interjecting, because you just said something very important. We're not doomed by our genes.
Yes, correct.
So because in my layman's opinion or perspective, your predisposition, once you're born, whatever your parents gave you is what you're going to deal with in the later parts of your life, correct?
Yep.
So you're saying now that can be prevented.
Correct.
So there's a bright light at the end of your your medical journey.
Yes, correct. And previously, even gene testing is quite expensive, but nowadays you can do it. Anyone can do it, right? So from $100,000 previously, it's only done during research, but nowadays even direct-to-consumer gene testing, you can already know your genetic predisposition. And once you know that information, you can utilize that information on how you can either down-regulate a bad gene or up-regulate a good gene. No? So that's epigenetics.
Yes.
No? So that you could influence, you could change the course. Let's say, for example, you have a heredofamilial disease in your family, like cancer.
Okay, I was about to say yes. I need subtitles.
Okay, heredofamilial meaning to say it is passed on, really.
Right,
They are,
okay.
But actually, only 10% of cancer in particular is due to heredity. No? A lot of them are really due to compromises in our lifestyle and in our environment, in particular, our nutrition.
Right.
No?
So if let's go back just a few steps. So from conventional medicine, now you are a medical director of Regenerative Institute, which is a functional medicine institute, right? How did you get, sorry?
It's actually a health span center.
Health span center.
So
okay.
we want to offer patients options.
Right.
Whether they want to continue spending for their chronic diseases, or do they want to invest in order to restore back the balance of their health system.
How did you get from conventional to where you are now?
Well, just like me, just like my many patients, I also, when I reached the age of 42, 12 years ago, I started manifesting with symptoms and conditions that really affected my health and my function. But there's nothing can be identified as a disease on what I'm experiencing. So that's when I turned myself with the help of a functional medicine doctor, and he evaluated my case, and then he said, there's no diseases yet, but there are a lot of systems imbalances in my body. Yeah. But it can be corrected if I'm just going to really change my food intake, my sleep, my stress level, those things. So in other words, I'm a beneficiary of this practice as well.
That was the turning point. Very interesting. Obviously, a few years back, we've come from the pandemic, and how has that changed the approach of Filipinos towards healthcare, affordable and of course premium healthcare?
Actually, a lot of what we call biohackers, self-biohackers. No? A lot of people, they're not doctors, but they're aware as to how you can biohack your body system, particularly the biological system.
Is this, are you referring to like stem cells and stuff like that?
Not exactly, but sometimes just really basically changing your food intake, understanding what your body system needs as far as micronutrients and macronutrients can make a big difference as far as your health is concerned. No? So, and there are a lot of biohackers who are into not just stem cells, but even fasting. No? It's one way that it's cheap, it's free, right? So fasting is one way to regenerate your system. Fasting actually activates what we call autophagy, the body's ability to restore itself, to repair itself, to clean itself.
Wow.
No? So there's so many other modalities like thermal stress, like use of cold and
I've done that.
And
It's amazing,
hot
yeah.
thermal stress. No?
Yes.
Thermal stress, hot thermal stress can activate what we call heat shock proteins.
Yes.
No? One of the reparative proteins that our body produces.
Is that the, what you call it, the infrared?
Infrared sauna, or you can do it on your own. No? So others, they create their own sauna in their backyard.
Yeah.
No? So it can be done. I mean, it not need necessarily not to be expensive for the. No? But yes, you're correct. There are many advanced technologies present that can be utilized to make these things easy. But there are also other options pertaining to regenerative medicine by tapping into our own body's ability to repair itself.
Good morning, I'm Mikey Oreta, and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world.
Stay ahead of the curve with the latest on financial dynamics.
The Philippines' trade deficit hits its highest level in over 2 years. The Philippine stock market continues to plummet. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority is on track.
Join us as we delve into the evolving economic landscape. Mikey Oreta, Basis Points, 9:30 a.m. Only on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Ciao, mabuhay. You are watching The Word Exposed.
Prepare our hearts as we dive deeper into our faith and receive the strength from God's Word. Join Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle as he shares the reflection we need for the rest of the week.
We pray that the Word of God would find fulfillment in your life and His blessings be always upon you.
Every Sunday, 7 a.m. with replays at 3 p.m.
Ako po si Pinky Webb. At ako naman si Corina Sanchez Rojas. Simulan na natin ang agenda.
Yung nawala na 10 billion comes from the computerization.
Government subsidy para sa PhilHealth, umarangkada na. Muugong ang panawagang executive clemency para sa death row convict na si Mary Jane Veloso. Pipilitin daw ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na pirmahan ang 2025 budget bago magpasko. Sa bawat issue, may anggulo at ang balita, may agenda.
This morning, we take a look at the rise of aesthetic medicine in the Philippines. Just recently, Clinique de Paris celebrated a decade of pioneering work in hair restoration. And how's the demand like? as well as the competition. We are now joined by its founders and managing director, Ludovic Branellec. Also with us is the Dr. Rafael Fortus, medical director at Clinique de Paris. Good morning, guys. I should say Clinique de Paris, like
Good morning,
the proper way to say it. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. And this is a very important subject, gentlemen, especially for people at my tender age of 35. And there's a lot of taboos and, how should I say, a shroud of fear concerning hair, right? But before that, how did you both put together Clinique de Paris? Ludo?
Well, I would say Clinique de Paris is a message of love, was built on love, love for one another, love for the Philippines and for the Filipino people. So I guess we really wanted to bring to the Philippines the best available techniques in terms of hair restoration.
But you weren't in the hair industry in the beginning. What were you doing?
Absolutely not. Actually, I come from hospitality background, so I used to, after growing up in the Philippines, I studied in Europe, hospitality, so I always worked in hotel and restaurants. So completely different industry. When I decided to move back to the Philippines, I wasn't really sure if I was going to venture into the family business or do my own resort or restaurant, and I was lucky to be exposed
Well,
to
your family is also in the beauty side, but the accessory side, but let's not talk about that this morning. What about you, Dr. Raf? What were you doing before Clinique de Paris?
Yeah, so I'm Filipino by heritage, but I did all of my training in Australia. And so we get to combine the best of the best. Everyone knows that France can bring luxury products and that the Filipino nurses and the malasakit is really what makes us really good. Yeah. So by combining the two together, it really becomes a very competitive force.
Right, but you don't study to be a hair doctor in medical school, am I correct?
Like all things, it's a bit of luck and a bit of persistence. So I fell into hair and aesthetics because of an incidental exposure.
Tell me.
Yeah, so I was traveling around the Philippines looking for opportunities to work, studying in Australia and finishing my residency, and then had the opportunity to train in Paris. So hence the name Clinique de Paris, combining the best of the three worlds. So I love hair because it's really the combination of art and science, working with your mind, working with your hands as well.
Right. You know, okay, I said earlier during your intro that, you know, it can be a touchy subject, like especially me. You know, I'm going to say it in public, I'm losing hair. And a lot of people don't actually say that. I mean, you know, it's a shameful thing for some people. It's depressing for some people. It's also confidence degeneration for some people. And, you know, for us that are normally on camera as a form of living, you know, it's quite important for us to look the best we can. And there's a lot of things that obviously factor into hair loss. But in the Philippines, we're not as exposed compared to other countries as a top hair place to go to. You're talking about Turkey, you're talking about the US and other parts of Europe and even Australia, right?
Yes.
How has the industry grown in the 10 years since Clinique de Paris was operating?
So absolutely, you know, hair is really the forgotten corner of aesthetics, where people know about skin and body care products, but hair is actually, you know, a signal of your gender affirmation as well as your status, your mood, your general wellness. And when we go to important events, it's usually the hair is the one thing that we check.
Yes.
So when it starts to fall, so too can a person's self-perception. So we are giving permission to men and women to really understand what options they have. Modern medicine has come a long way in the generations before us that people for the first time can choose when or if at all they lose their hair, and that can be very empowering for them.
Right.
So we start with a clinic that's very welcoming and doesn't feel like a medical facility, and just having that patience with and the privacy of the patients as well.
I don't know if you have this data, but genetically in the Philippines, do we have a percentage of men and women that lose hair at a certain age? When do you start to lose hair?
So hair loss, genetic, is the bulk of male pattern hair loss. So it can affect up to it's the 90% cause of most hair loss. Okay, so for most
genetics, 90% of hair loss
in men, and for women it's about 50%. So about half of all men will experience some hair loss,
Yes.
and about 40% of all women. So a lot of these
In
patients,
general?
in general,
That's a very high statistic. Right? But like Ludo, like here, I mean, in the Philippines, obviously, or around the world, I'd say, if you're a male and you lose hair, it's more acceptable, right?
Absolutely.
But for women, it's absolutely devastating, right? Do you have a lot of female patients in the clinic?
Actually, yes, you'd be surprised to know how many women experience and suffer in silence. So use all sorts of techniques and hairstyles to cover their hair loss.
Right.
Some can be genetic, some can be connected to postpartum, or could also be caused by hairstyles like traction
Right.
alopecia.
But in general, what age do you start losing significant hair?
it can really depend. Some as early as their late teens, which can be quite impactful on their lives.
1,000%. Yes.
Exactly, but in general, between the ages of about 25 to up to 65. And it comes at all stages of their life. So
Yeah.
we're so happy to kind of help people at their college days to really the beginning of a marriage to the end of a marriage and a new lease on their own life as well. So that's what's really rewarding for us.
Yes. You know, it's funny because sometimes on social media, I see, you know, funny memes about people in an airplane coming from a certain country and all of them have had the treatment, right? Do we have, what are the kind of treatments, you know, a patient, men and women, can subscribe to prevent hair loss or to restore hair?
Yeah, so like all things in medicine, prevention is better than a cure. So starting early with the right medical advice, not Dr. Google, but really seeing a professional
Guilty.
that focuses on hair. And
Yeah.
there are options that you can apply topically to medical treatments inside a clinic, and surgery can be relied on once it's either advanced or you need something a bit quicker.
Right. Some men are also afraid to do medical treatments when it comes to hair loss because you know, there's a myth, I would say, or maybe in the past 10, 20 years, that if you take medicine for hair loss, you lose your virility. Is that a fact or is that a...
Well, I guess, yeah, that's correct. There's a slight percentage, I would say 1 to 2% of men who could have some negative side effects.
Right.
But in those minor cases, after 2 weeks of stopping the medication, you're back to your normal state. So I always say, give it a try. Some people are allergic to aspirin or paracetamol, and you know, I guess there's less risk with topical medication in terms of long term.
And there are lots of different options, not just the medicine. So our job is to inform and educate the general public about what options they have, and their role is to decide what they want for their body.
What
and
is
when.
the top, like, treat me now option? Surgery?
For instant results, hair transplantation is very safe, it's very effective, the downtime is a lot quicker than before, and the results are better than they've ever been. So for the instant results, it's a hair transplantation with 1 to 2 weeks of downtime. But there are medical therapies like plasma, which is rich in growth factors, and new molecules that always emerge, like exosomes and other proteins as well.
Right, but okay, for example, I'm going to your clinic tomorrow, okay? What's the fastest, most effective? Is it hair transplant surgery?
I would say the DHI, which is direct hair implantation. So this is building
and
on-
where do you get this? I heard that obviously if people go, you know, if they lose hair, I don't want to use the B word, okay? Because we're not using the B word. But they get from the back of their hair, the head, and because you don't get bald here.
That's right.
I use the B word. You don't have hair loss here.
So hair loss at the hair at the back is actually immune to the causes of hair loss,
Okay.
which is mostly hormones.
Okay.
So when you take these hairs and you place them anywhere else onto the scalp, they remain immune for the rest of your life, and that's the simplicity and the sophistication of the hair transplants.
Okay, so do people still get like a piece, like a line here and then transplant it?
yeah.
That's the surgery bit,
That's
right?
the strip technique, I would say, where they would get a flap of skin from the back of our head and then stitch back the donor area to re-implant this hair.
Does
on the
that
front
still
leg.
happen nowadays? No more.
Well, the problem with that is that you can end up with a scar and can't have a short haircut.
You don't practice that?
No. Direct hair implantation is really one at a time. So you
Okay.
take the hairs individually, implant them individually, almost like creating a tapestry each day.
Right.
So there's an art form of how you place the hairs, the angle, the direction, the position, the puyo or the swirl at the back of the scalp also
Right.
dictates the grain.
Right. You know, there's a myth in the Philippines. When you have two swirls or two puyos, you're supposed to be a naughty child. Just putting it out there. What are the latest techniques that the hair transplant or the hair growth industry is now employing, aside from exosomes, as you said?
Yeah. So like all things in medicine, hair science is advancing very, very rapidly.
Right.
From AR to AI, and even some robotics are getting involved. At the moment, the nuance and the precision of a surgical hand is still at the forefront, so we combine that with the best technologies in medicines as well.
Last question for each of you. What's your biggest mistake, Ludo?
The biggest mistake probably I've done is not doing anything about my hair loss earlier. I waited until I was 35 years old to do something about it. I wish I did it when I was 25, when I started losing my hair.
Yes.
Because all the people that knew me back then, when they see me now, they're like, you did something.
They're going to go buy you a drink.
Exactly.
What about you?
And me, maybe not starting the business earlier here in the Philippines. It's such a good opportunity to come from Australia here to the Philippines, start something together, and really put the Philippines on the map as something world-class.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really wish this was a whole hour, but that's it for today's show. I'm Ferdi Salvador. Catch the Bilyonaryo News channel on Free TV channel 31 and on cable via Signal channel 24. Thank you for watching the Bilyonaryo News channel, always on top.